My name is N.C. Heikin, and I am a director. I started in theater. First I started as a dancer, then a singer, then a dancing, singing actress. Did musicals in New York, but always loved film, and I switched into screenwriting for a long time. And most recently, I switched into documentaries as a director. And that came from a story that got hold of me about a kid in a concentration camp in North Korea, and I really wanted to tell that story, and I wrote a screenplay based on a true story. Couldn't sell it anywhere, and one day I said, well, I think I'll just make a documentary. And that documentary became a film called Kimjongilia that has North Korean refugees, stories of North Korean refugees. And it went to Sundance, and all of a sudden I thought, well, maybe I'm a documentary director. That's how I got here.
Can you tell us some of the directors that inspired you? Do you have any specific names, or are there any specific movies that moved you that direction?
You know, not really. It was the story that drove me. That film, I was very inspired by Lantzman, who did a film called Shoah, that was testimonies from Holocaust survivors. In this case, the Frank Morgan story, Sound of Redemption, I just let Frank's music and his story inspire me to tell it.
What are some of the challenges that you found in producing, directing this film, or any film?
Usually with documentaries, the biggest challenge is finding the financing. We were completely blessed because we had an executive producer who took care of us, and made sure that we could do what we needed to do, in Michael Connolly. He's also the person who brought the story to me, so he was a fan of Frank's, and he asked me if I'd be interested in doing this, and I listened to Frank's music and I signed on. But that is the challenges. In this case, because Frank has already passed, the challenges are finding ways to tell his story, show him, communicate him without having the interview with him, without having the possibility to shoot footage with him. So there you just gotta construct. You gotta be creative to make a film about somebody who's already passed.
What came first, the love of jazz or the Frank Morgan story, and how do they mix?
I've been a jazz fan for a long, long time, but I'm sort of omnivorous in terms of music, so jazz became one of the things I loved in music. This really brought me back to jazz. I've been listening sort of all day, every day for the last 3 years, been doing jazz, and I have so much respect for jazz musicians. It's such an evolved art form. You just gotta respect these people. They're brilliant, all of them. They're brilliant musicians to be able to do what they do. We were very fortunate to have his former wife, Rosalinda Kolb. She's a signal figure in the film. She had kept an amazing archive on his life, so we were very fortunate to have her participation. We had the very moving participation of his half-sister, Angela Morgan Walker, who remembers him from when she was a little baby, really, and he used to come around. Their father, they have the same father, Stanley Morgan. Stanley Morgan's last wife, he had quite a few, who was, I guess she would have been a stepmother to Frank, but she was a lot younger than Frank was. But anyway, that's family. So she was on, and then we had his cousins who were wonderful, warm people. He spent the last couple of years of his life living at their house, and this was in Milwaukee. Am I right about that, James? Milwaukee?
No.
So I went to her house, and I saw where Frank lived the last couple of years.
Starting with this weekend.
Well, first we want as many people as possible can see it. That's the number one thing when you have a film, is you want eyeballs. We would like to get a message out that drugs are not the way to go. We'd really like to influence kids and say, go pick up a saxophone instead of a needle, I'm really happy to say that heroin is kind of the jazz musicians are done with it. That's really over in the jazz world. But as you know, a lot of us know, there's a new epidemic of all kinds of kids getting into heroin. So I'd love to just, have it be a cautionary tale. Maybe if it saves one life,
that'd
one
be great.
kid. And we have another goal, which is to raise some money for music education. We know all over the country that music programs have been cut, and they have no instruments to use. And if we can raise enough money, which with a doc is pretty iffy, but we're going to try. Raise some money to, help a school program, help a school that's teaching kids.
How do they mix?
I've been a jazz fan for a long, long time, but I'm sort of omnivorous in terms of music, so jazz became one of the things I loved in music. This really brought me back to jazz. I mean, I've been listening sort of all day, every day for the last 3 years, been doing jazz, and I have so much respect for jazz musicians. It's such an evolved art form. You just gotta respect these people. They're brilliant, all of them. They're brilliant musicians to be able to do what they do. The Fernando Pullum Arts Education Center.
Community Arts Center.
The Fernando Pullum Community Arts Center. It's in Los Angeles. It's in South Central, more or less, right? They are doing what we want to help people do, teach the kids. Oh yeah, we have a website for more information. You can Google Sound of Redemption. You can Google the Frank Morgan story. You can Google the Frank Morgan Project. But go to soundofredemption.com. You're going to find us. There's lots of information. All sorts of updates will be there. And, come visit us there. My name is N.C. Heikin. You can follow me on my Facebook page. That's N.C.H.E.I.K.I.N. On Facebook, there's also NCHEIKIN, NCHeikin.com. The website for our film, Sound of Redemption, is soundofredemption.com. Come visit us. We're there. I'm N.C. Heikin, and you're watching the Hollywood Elevator magazine for the artist on the rise.